So, oh yeah. So our next speaker is our keynote speaker, and the person who drives, who's because of whose support, because of his vision, we are able to achieve most of what we are able to achieve. And I've known him for a couple of years. He's really helped me grow personally, professionally, and to complement his vision, I've been able to translate his thoughts and visions into the way what he wanted to see. So it's a wonderful relationship we've had personally and professionally, and he's the kind of person who would help selflessly for anyone who's really willing to get that help. So please put your hands together for Dr. Paul Eisner.
Anyway, we're March the 10th. On April the 19th, I celebrate 48 years in dentistry. What happens when you go through your life, when I think of 48 years, it's like 48 months or 48 weeks. So whatever you do, and there's a lot I've got to share with you today, it goes by very, very quickly. So make sure that every moment, every decision you make with the highest amount of importance and enjoyment. When a boss asked me to talk about the intangibles of dentistry, and he said, I want you to share 48 years, he said to me, how long do you need? So I said, probably an hour and a half. But he's only giving me an hour. So basically what I've tried to do is squeeze in everything in an hour. One of the things we'll talk about a little bit later that we're going to be doing at CIDE is setting up a mentorship program. So a lot of these areas can be expanded on and be done in more depth. But I really wanted to give you an overview of everything I've touched that's touched me to let you see what it is. The key thing I think in life is success and happiness. When you think about success, it has many different facets. The first thing we think of is monetary success, but that's the least important. Success starts with quality marriage or relationship. If you have kids, making sure those kids blossom well, end up with good lives, having a life that's balanced, and then on top of that, being blessed that your profession is one that you enjoy and that gives you pleasure every day. And if you put that success and all those ingredients together, it still doesn't guarantee happiness, but it gives you the best chance. When you come into the building, you'll see all the names that are on the door. And right at the bottom, there's a saying, and it's called the essence of passion. So if you have a chance, read that, because for me personally, that's what has driven me for the 48 years, whether it is a marriage, children, the practice, my golf. And if you're able to inject passion into what you do, you have the best chance for success. Can you put that picture up for a second? Who is that?
Leo.
Now, I pulled this off the web, and here's what I saw him say. Be very thankful for the hard and uncertain times, for they have made you. What do you think that means from his mouth? Well, if you're not sure, let me tell you. He's an excellent actor, good-looking guy, and I'll just read the first paragraph. American actor Leonardo DiCaprio has won 50 awards from 167 nominations and was named runner-up for 4 of those nominations. 4 British Academy Film Awards, 9 Screen Actor Guild Awards, winning 1 award each, and 3 Golden Globe Awards. So out of 167 opportunities, he only hit on 50, which is a 1/3 rate. For him, those were his hard times. What he doesn't share with you, during those hard times, he had $85 gazillion in the bank, no stress, but what he didn't get was the recognition from the awards. When a boss came to me to start the CIDE project, this was a very important project that I felt was deserving to be in TDLC because we tried to do this 10 years ago, and because of a partnership or the partner that I had was going to go to the ODA as a governor, we couldn't do that. But when I take a look at the hard times, I see all of you coming from other countries, language barriers, you come with professional degrees, you try to integrate into Canadian society, you struggle to get the right education to have a chance to get your licensing, and you guys are the real heroes. So understand everything you've gone through, every anguish, every sweat, every disappointment, it helps make you tougher and stronger to keep moving forward. So when I read this, I don't feel so bad for him, and it's not that I feel bad for you, but you guys are the heroes, not Leonardo. So he finally won an Academy Award recently. Thank God we can all sleep at night. So what I tried to do today was to break 48 years up into a few parts. And the first part is the ideal practice. Second part is the challenges in dentistry. And the third part is the barriers that don't let us get there. So I started, as I said, in practice in 1969. We had an office not far from here. It was 4 operatories. If somebody sneezed in the waiting room, we were able to hear it in the back. It was very, very tiny. So in 1969, everybody had a vision of what an ideal practice was going to look like, and that's how they built. 1988, we moved here. So we went from 4 operatories to 11, from 1,100 square feet to 6,000 square feet, and the vision of the ideal practice totally changed. So one thing you have to realize is that whatever goals you set or how you see things in life, whether it's a marriage or what you expect from your kids, it's a constantly changing dynamic. And the way the world has gone now, if you keep doing what you've been doing, as the definition of insanity, you don't get what you deserve, so you have to keep growing. Through my life, I've always tried to get things done at the very highest level. And years ago, somebody shared with me that if you have an arrow and you try to shoot for the stars, which are very far away, and that's your target, and you miss, then at least you're going to hit the moon, which is also very high. So whatever you do, set your sights high. A quotation that I've always liked is, just as I learned all of life's answers, they changed the questions. So in 1969, 1975, 80, 85, the questions were almost the same. What's happened in the last 15, 20 years with technology and all the things that are happening, things are changing rapidly. So you have to keep looking for those answers. Thanks, Abbas. And Abbas is my flipper, so I figure I'll pick up another 3 minutes by not having to change the slide. So the areas that I want to talk about, and as I said, there's a lot to cover. I'll be reading things, we'll be talking a little bit. I just have a lot of information I want to get to you. So the different areas, I think, in creating the ideal practice, whether it was 1969 or 2017, is great leadership, having a patient-centered philosophy, finding ideal patients, a commitment to education, continuing education, and having financial stability. So when it comes to leadership, I think leadership, and I'll read, has to be from everybody in the dental office. It can't be just from the dentist. When we graduated from dental school, nobody taught us how to be leaders. Maybe if we were lucky, we picked a lot of that up from our growing up, from our families. Nobody taught us to be leaders. We're technicians, we're carpenters, we're artists. And a lot of times people will get into practice and they have all these technical skills and clinical skills, but leading is a difficulty. So the first thing is you've got to find out and figure out how to increase your talents in becoming a leader. Once you become what we hope is a good leader, a bunch of things have to happen in the practice. There has to be open, honest, and direct communication, and a united, motivated team who boast a high level of integrity, passion, accountability, and teamwork in order to achieve job pride and enthusiasm. That's when the good times come. So if you can find a way to be a great leader or a good leader get your staff as best as possible to be leaders within the practice, you've got a good chance of getting that ideal practice. If you're able to do that, your patients will be, there's a book on called Raving Fans, How to Become Raving Fans, and you'll have a team that will be happy. But leadership is very, very important. Patient-centered philosophy, where your patient is the most important thing coming into that office. Doing good dentistry and doing what you're capable of doing. And for me, the patient was almost the most important thing. When I graduated in 1970 and opened, 69, opened my office in 70, I had an open schedule. You know, people come in, schedules are open, and you've got to fill the schedule because you've got to pay for the rent and staff. And I still remember even today that patients would come in, and if somebody had a complex endo, a molar endo with hooked roots, was not my area of expertise. And what I knew immediately, I knew what I could handle and what I couldn't handle. So the biggest thing as a practitioner is to understand where you are in your life, what your skills are, and that the patient's the most important thing. So that means you supply the treatment you're capable of providing, but where you can't, you use specialists. And there's a story I'll tell you about 1971, which is a situation where a patient came into the practice, a husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Rosendahl. I still remember them. They're from Indonesia. Lovely couple. They had a business where they together cleaned offices. That was their business. So I knew they were on a tight budget. They'd come in regularly. You know, we went through the x-rays with them. They came in on whatever repairs they could afford. And over several years, you watch things start to happen. You know they should be referred to a periodontist. You know they might need a crown. But what we kept them was on a very basic program of what they could afford. So I gave them information on what might happen, but not with the greatest of depth because I prejudged them that they're never going to go ahead with it. So about 4 or 5 years later, I'm sitting home, reading the newspaper. This is like 1971. I open up this page, and there's a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Rosendahl holding a check. How much? $1 million. Now, in 1971, $1 million was a lot of money. Today it's still a lot of money. It's going to change everybody's life. But in 1971, that was a lot. So I looked at the picture, and I had to make a decision. What am I going to do on the next visit? How am I going to, all of a sudden, give them the information they needed? So I decided, which is not normally my style because I'm usually like this, I decided I got to be really careful and just ease into it as if I didn't know that they now can afford what they need. So that's exactly what we did. They came in, I discussed a little bit more than what I'd ever discussed, and they finished their appointments, and what do you think happened afterwards? They never came back. And the reason they didn't come back is because I believe they understood that I knew that now they can afford it, and I treated them differently than before. So if I've learned anything now, there's many stories about somebody who's a hillbilly in Arkansas comes into a dental office with torn jeans and straw in his shoes and wants to sit down for treatment, and the dentist assumes that he doesn't know or have any money, and that person ends up owning all the oil wells in Arkansas. So when patients come in, it's our obligation to make sure that they completely understand what is available to them, as if they had $50 million or 50 cents, it doesn't matter. Once they understand, and you make a decision on what they can handle, and you do it in phases. So that was a very valuable lesson. And if I ever see them, couldn't probably end up apologizing enough. Another area where I think it's important with patients is the way education has gone, is clinical has changed dramatically. Technology, the stuff we're using now that I can't even imagine. So a practice, in order to deliver the right treatment, has to be on the leading edge of technology. Plus you have to have a facility that is clean and neat and modern and inviting. And so the key is, again, getting back to the choosing the treatment, is being careful with giving them what they need. And one of the biggest problems we've had over the years is dental insurance. Dental insurance started in 1970, and all of a sudden people would walk in with these pieces of paper and it would cover them for a certain amount, and that's what they had to spend. That's the same trap as I had with this lovely couple. Because a lot of people who feel that their insurance will cover them $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is, and want to stay within that figure. I recently had something happen in our practice about 2 weeks ago, where I have, I love golfing, so at our golf club, one of the guys I golf with, his wife became a patient. She's a high-end technology consultant. They're both very successful. And she was always late for appointments, didn't get the ortho done, never went to the periodontist. We at least got her on a 4-month recare. At one point, her mouth started breaking down, so the team or the hygienist recommended a closer recare pattern. So she came in an extra recare for the year. One of our staff got an email from her that her insurance plan that she's got was exceeded by $183. And she felt it was our responsibility to have managed that better, not to run over. And at the end of the day, when things like that happen, I always look at it and say it's our fault. Because had she understood the value of what we did, had we explained it properly, because they live in a multi-million-dollar house, she would have probably not had the nerve to send that in. So insurance, as wonderful as it is, we have to make sure that it doesn't dictate. And a lot of people, this is what my insurance will allow me. I can only get 1 crown done this year. So again, it all gets back to good treatment coordinating, good explanation, making people understand it is their mouth, it's not the insurance's mouth. And again, people will always afford what is important to them. And that's the way you have to go. With ideal patients, these are what I believe are the key things with ideal patients. They keep appointments. We have many patients, our wonderful instructors. Hey guys. Patients will sometimes get confirmed for Tuesday at 4 o'clock, for a Wednesday appointment for 9 o'clock in the morning, and they forget. When that happens, I say it's our fault. They didn't understand the value of it. I was speaking to somebody this morning, and I explained to them many years ago, I had a corneal abrasion. I got a piece of amalgam in my eye. It cut open. I was in a patch for 2 weeks. It's healed over well. If my eye gets dry, it starts to water. I go in every year to get that little healed scar tissue checked to make sure it's okay. We have a lot of patients that are booked on 3 to 4 month recalls and get probing done once a year. The probing is to do an up-to-date periodontal assessment, see what their pocketing is, determine if there's any been change breakdown. It's almost like a complete physical. When I see people forgetting those appointments, just don't show up, forget about it, I always say, whose fault is it? It's our fault. Not their fault, it's our fault. Because if they understood the importance of that, they would keep it. They have to pay their accounts. Unfortunately, in the real world, you go out and you want to buy that gorgeous sweater or a car or a set of golf clubs. You go in, there's no sweater insurance or golf club insurance. When it comes to our profession, many times patients will be, have $1,000 a year, and they want to, can you wait for the check? And we don't unless we know somebody's in dire straits, we don't allow that. Referring people, that is a key thing. When I was a young dentist, people used to say thank you more. They used to refer more. And people refer based on the experience they have and how their lives are touched. Everybody's rushing today. They're on iPads, they're on iPhones, all the messages are going in here. People have forgotten how to say thank you, and it extends into the dental practice where they don't refer the way they used to, and that's one way of saying thank you. And if you can get people who believe in the practice and who will refer, those are your greatest ambassadors. When I see money spent on marketing, and this is my marketing genius here, it's one thing to market CIDE and OWL and the Dental Learning Center, that's one thing. But in a dental practice, if people value the experience and they refer family and friends, the money that you waste putting ads in and balloons going would be completely saved. So again, next slide is just the, again, with the referrals, and a lot of it is how you make them feel every appointment. If you were, if you were a comedian and were at Casino Ramen in up north, and there were 5 shows during the day, 5 shows, and you were the comedian, the person who comes to see the 9 to 10 o'clock show sees or needs to see the same comedy show. If you went to that show, all 5 shows would be identical. The comedian knows he's got to be or she's got to be on the mark every show, because that's the first time that that person has heard that routine. Dental office has got to be the same. Everybody comes in, whether it's the first patient of the day or the last, we're on stage, we have to be up. Whether it's somebody coming in to book an appointment, to leave the office, to make a payment, it's the interaction that they feel that is important. And it gets back to the slide before on great leadership, where if everybody understands the importance of new patients coming in, there's 2 things you want to do. You have people coming in who value the practice, and at the bottom, you don't want to have a hole where people are falling. You're losing all those families. So it's all about the experiences that they have. CE is crucial. CE today, compared to 25 years ago, has changed completely. 25 years ago, there might have been 2 or 3 courses on a weekend in Toronto. Now there's 25. The marketing is very misleading. Some are fabulous, some are terrible. So you have to research your CE and make sure you understand with the RCDS guidelines exactly what you're required to take a year. And there's many courses that talk about take our course and meet our CDSO guidelines. I don't want to go to a course like that. I want to go to a course that says come to our course and we'll teach you how to exceed our RDSO guidelines. So at the end of the day, you want to learn more than just enough so that you satisfy the college. Financial stability is important. You cannot run a business if it's not financially stable. So the things you have to have are understanding the business side of dentistry. So the clinical is important, technology is important, being a good leader is important, but you're also running a business. In dental school, nobody taught us how to be business people. Nobody taught us at all. The way I've run my practice over the years is I never got caught up on, not that I didn't get caught up on production, but I didn't worry about every expense. So if we ordered 10 bottles of water for the team and it cost us $3, I didn't run to Costco to save 25 cents to get it cheaper. There are certain numbers that are important to the practice. Staff costs, lab costs, sundries costs, and I'll introduce you to Roxanne in a few minutes. So there's certain percentages that if you fall within that percentage and everything else is okay, you're good. So where I've always concentrated is not so much on saving the little things, it's increasing the important things. And the important things are production, recommending necessary dentistry, getting people to understand what they needed, and concentrating on the growth there rather than saving 25 cents going down. Another thing that I've been very lucky with is surrounding myself with good people. You come out of the gate, you must have, as Bill said before, good accountants, good lawyers. What we'll be talking about in the mentorship program is also a good financial advisor. My youngest daughter and son-in-law, he's a real estate agent. I want my financial advisor to meet with them. So Elliot says to me, what are we meeting about? We just bought a house, we're in debt. What are they going to help me? I have no money to put anywhere. So I said to him, what is important is one day you will. And it's like, you know, the Leaning Tower of Pisa? Somebody put the bricks in the wrong angle. They would have put it in straight. It wouldn't have been as many pictures right? Right? It's at an angle. So you plant straight, something grows straight. So I finally convinced him after 5 years of marriage, he's going to meet with Danielle and talk about what things could look like if everything goes properly. So lawyers are important, accountants are important, and financial advisors. One of the things that's been crucial for me over the years is getting the right guidance within my practice, because I was always involved with other things. I loved to golf, and there were things I'm really good at, and there were things I'm not so great at. So we've always had dental consultants in the practice. A dental consultant or practice management consultant is somebody who comes in, analyzes your systems, works with the staff, brings everything together. And one of the things I have right now, we have the pleasure of this lovely lady, Roxanne Molden, is our consultant in the practice, and I've been through several, probably since the early 80s. Every 4 or 5 years, it's sort of time to get a fresh outlook. And one of the things I said to Roxanne, almost from the beginning when she came in, I said, our practice is unique. We have our issues, as every practice does, but it's not like a separate island. I said, what I want you to do is come in, analyze our team, take a look at everything, then figure out who we are, what we're capable of, figure out what you've done in every other practice you've been in, and what you've learned. A little bit, figure out how you're going to put it into us. So by having an external coach come in, as you know, we're not the best leaders, we're not the best coaches, we're not the best organizers, we're technicians, we're carpenters, we do dentistry. So by having a third person party come in and guide you, that makes the biggest difference. Should have given me an hour and a quarter. I'm mad at you. One of the things I've always felt was important is also with financial stability is that the team is properly rewarded. Our team members are partners in the office. So one of the areas you don't want to be saving money on is having staff that are, you want to be good staff where you pay them inappropriately. So the first thing that starts off is you have to be able to pay a fair wage. And then from there, as the practice does well, you have some kind of a, I don't know if bonus is the right word, but some kind of a reward system that they can see that what they put in, they'll be able to handle. One of the stories I had years ago, I got lots of stories, which an hour and a quarter is not going to cover, but we had an office manager who was making at the time $40,000. Come to me one day, we're supposed to have our review, and she says, you know, I think I'm worth more money. Can we talk about it? I said, sure, let's talk about it. So she had a friend who was in a practice, was an office manager, and the practice was like 6 dentists, 85 operatories, 3 locations. She was running around, and she was making a lot of money, but her workload was like up to here. So this young lady was making $40,000 for the year. So I said to her, okay, like, what are you taking? So she, easy, $80,000. So you know what I said? I got no problem with that. So at the time, our practice was doing $1 million in gross. So if we talk about the percentages of profit, if our practice is doing $1 million for the year, and she's making $40,000, and that fits the percentages, I said to her, I have no problem. Get me to $2 million with your skills, and then I'll give you 80. And I said, even better than that, if you get us to $3 million, I'll give you $120,000 a year. What do you think happened a week later? She quit. And she was a fabulous young lady, and she's been into 100 jobs since then because she was talented and bright. She wasn't grounded. And one thing you learn, if you want to get everything out of life that you deserve, give other people what they need first. She didn't do that. So, challenges in dentistry. There is no difference pretty well today than there was 30 years ago, except the technology is insane. But what are the challenges? Information overload. In the old days, I used to get 1 or 2 magazines that were about this thick, and there used to be maybe a new Turing light and a new air rotor. Today, at the end of each month, all of this stuff comes in. I don't always read it now. I used to read everything. There's 25 different companies with 25 different products. All the products are great. They're all expensive. It's hard to know what to pick. So the information overload is really crucial. And that's where somebody like a Roxanne has helped, because if she's in multiple practices and understands what's working, then that's what you pick. Again, insurance is a horrible, horrible thing, because if it's not explained properly to the patient, I think insurance is a benefit. You're lucky that you have this. It's just an extra thing that your employer decided to give you. And what patients don't understand is that it's not, Sun Life is not bad, or Manulife is not bad. The employer has decided to buy a certain package, and they spend a certain amount of money. So I had a school teacher, and I'll tell you that story, it's another story. He got $10,000 a year in coverage. He was with some school board at the museum. It was insane. But with most people, they are limited with their coverage. One of my all-time favorite stories, again, the Toronto Star on a Saturday. I go through, and I open one page, and there's a list of the highest paid executives in Toronto. So there's like the top 80. Let's see if there's anybody I know there. So I start looking down the list, and I get to number 60. My patient's in there. He was with Magna Corporation. He was one of the chief executive officers, and he made, in 1985, $200,000 a year with an $800,000 bonus. He was $1 million earner. So I think to myself, something started to twist in my stomach. So I go back to his chart. He had an anterior bridge that was old acrylic on metal. Margins were showing, he had this before he came, and we sent in 5 insurance estimates over 4 or 5 years. His insurance was a lousy coverage through Magna. He got probably like $2,000 a year. So he didn't go ahead with the treatment because it didn't cover everything. I think it was out of pocket like $800. So on his next treatment, I took him into the consult room and I said, you're either going to go ahead with the bridge, or I love you. I don't even want you in my practice. Like, how could you make such a bad decision? So he said, because my mouth, I was brought up in a home where dentistry was not a priority, and he ended up going ahead with it. But imagine $1 million in income, and he didn't want to spend $500 out of his pocket. People don't accept solutions to problems they don't have. So if you're bring your car in to get looked at, and you're sitting in the lobby, and the mechanic said, you need this and this and this and this done, unless you really trust that mechanic, you're not going to go ahead. If the mechanic takes you into the actual garage, opens the hood, and shows you everything, you have a better chance of doing that. One of the things that, I'm going to steal this here. One of the things that for me, if I had one piece of equipment that I would go to the moon with, well, 2 pieces would be my golf clubs and my intraoral camera. So what we do with our intraoral camera, everybody that comes in, I take a photo before we start a procedure. I take interim photos at every step when everything's cut out. They see bleeding, they see decay, they see everything under the sun. So whatever treatment they require, it's not my fault that I have to be the salesperson. It's their mouth, it's their pictures, and it does an incredible job. So an intraoral camera, once you get going, that's the first piece of equipment. That's the best piece of equipment. Okay, patients realizing that dentistry is a lifelong need. Many of them don't realize it. I had a patient that came in, she was 85 years old, her son brought her on all the appointments. She had a bridge that was failing, she couldn't eat, she wanted it replaced. The son didn't want it done. The mother wanted it done, she said, go ahead with it. So I went ahead, we replaced the bridge. He was very angry at me because he thought it was very unprofessional to put a bridge into an 85-year-old woman. Well, the sad part is she lived another 10 years. she enjoyed the bridge. And dentistry is a lifelong need. When we started doing dentistry many years ago, what was important is the quality of the dentistry was good. Where you had, like in dentistry, if your margin is 99%, the restoration is going to fail. So you have to have good restorations, good margins, home care had to be good, and their frequency of recare had to be good. And that's what, for years, was our measure of how we help people. That's changed in the last few years. For me especially, as I watch cases come in that I did 20 years ago that are breaking down, and I'm killing myself as to why that's happening. And what I found is there's things that happen in people's bodies outside of what we can control. People get sick. There are numerous medications. Medications treat certain conditions. They have side effects. Acid reflux, diabetes, cardiac. They do all of these insane things. That has had a big factor on preventing dentistry from breaking down, and that's something that I feel practices will start to learn. In a little while, you're going to have the pleasure of hearing this wonderful young lady here, who is, and I won't say too much, she's a hygienist, practiced for 30 years. In the last 25, she's been a pioneer in the area of oral systemic health, understanding body disease and how it affects the oral cavity. And as a result of our relationship, if you see that little owl, that started 2 years ago, and we'll be teaching dental practices understanding the link between oral health and systemic health. So once patients understand it's a lifelong need, they look at it differently. I had one patient who was sarcastic, and actually it was this week. I talked to him about this bridge, so he said to me, I may die tomorrow, and then he said to me, ka-ching, ka-ching. You know what ka-ching, ka-ching is? It's the cash register that I was charging him. He might not live. So I had a new line that I've come out with, and I said, you know what? You're right, you might not live, but I said, I have a focus into the future. I found out that whether you go to heaven or hell, you need teeth. So you better hold on to what you got. Everybody in this room is young. I'm going to look at Harriet, and I'm going to look at you, Roxanne. Who saw the movie Peggy Sue Got Married? Artie, you haven't seen that? I'll give you a fast track on the movie. It's 1985. Nicolas Cage was in it, and the woman, Catherine something or other, that was in The Romancing the Stone. She goes to her high school prom, and she's with all her, she's like 50, 45, 50, and she's sitting with all her contemporaries. She gets up to get something, and she trips. She falls on the floor. So she obviously has some kind of an injury, concussion. The next scene, and it's her dreaming while she's out. Her next scene is she's at the school, and everybody else that's at the school are the students from 30 years before. So she's the old one, and everybody else is the young age. And she starts interacting and saying things or interacting with people and saying things she never could have said. Coincidentally, the woman who wrote this movie was a dental hygienist. So there's one scene in the movie where and her grandfather died before she was born. So in the movie, she arranges a visit with her grandfather. And as she goes to meet him and they talk and they reacquaint, she's very teary. She says to her grandfather, tell me, if there's one regret you had in your life, what would you do differently? So he says, I would have taken better care of my teeth. So what she did as a dental hygienist is she wove that in for that part of the movie. So every day, we're on stage. Every patient that comes in deserves the best from us, and we can change the way they feel, the way they look, and we can give them the confidence. We had a case yesterday where we did 4 6 actually, anterior crowns. We've got a fabulous lab next door. The guy left, he was just beaming. Harriet was emailing him, he was emailing the office. And he's in a really responsible position. He's a very good-looking guy. His smile is very important. And when he left, you look better than DiCaprio, trust me. One of the challenges also, as we get back to, and a lot of these things, challenges, ideal, they all coincide, is being an effective leader. So somehow you've got to either be able to work with somebody like a Roxanne that can do part of the leadership and show you how to do it, or you start reading books on leadership to understand what you have to do to effectively lead your team. One of the things that happen in dental practice is systems break down, where protocols on how you greet people, answer the telephone, put charts away. Over the years, these things break down. And when they break down and patients phone in and there's cracks, it's not a good thing. So having proper systems, and as good as our practice is on the middle floor, and it is good, there's things we were doing 3 years ago that we stopped doing or we're doing differently. Every year at our year-end party, they play a game where they put everybody around the table and somebody will whisper, "I love your hair." And you speak to Sarah, and it goes around the room, and by the time it goes to you, it says, "Let's go to Starbucks." So what started out totally changes. So I think it's important, the way a pilot gets into an airplane and checks all the systems, those systems have to be checked properly. Otherwise, chaos, stress, and unhappiness. And to fix an unhappy team is not an easy thing. It's not easy. We're technicians. How do you put it all together? So there's so many things. We have to have leadership, learn how to work technology, do good dentistry, be effective businessmen, and it's not an easy thing. And I have the analogy, I love golf, so I bring up the analogy of the champion golfer. In golf, there's 14 clubs in a bag. Each club does a different thing. Some hit far, some hit out of the sand, some hit short shots, some hit long shots. To be a champion golfer, you have to know how to use each club and how to perform well with it. There's an event in the golf world that's called the live long drive competition, where there are people who golf who are built like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and what the competition is, they go to a football field or a big field, and the winner is the one who hits it the furthest. That's what they do. All the winners of the long drive have never played on the PGA Tour. They're good with one club, but they're not good enough to compete with all the clubs. Dental practice is the same. If you're a great clinician, but a poor communicator and a poor leader, doesn't matter. If you have one or two of those things that are really good, what will hurt are the things that aren't good. So the responsibilities we have, unfortunately, is you have to be all very rounded. And as I said, getting back to what I said earlier, and a lot of things in overlap, is knowing the numbers. So when Roxanne comes in, like I don't want to get 45 pages of printouts on what my x-rays cost or what my cotton rolls are. I want to know is how do the expenses fit the accepted percentages, and if the numbers fit, then all I care about is growing the practice, adding new patients, retaining the ones we've got, and growing from the top up, rather than saving $1 on paper towels because I can get them cheaper at Costco. Just skip the next one, please. Yeah. So the key thing is, the next one, thank you. The problem is the longer you practice, the more you get to see your dentistry come back. And if you really are proud of what you've done, your stomach and guts get torn out when you watch dentistry fail. And one of the things you learn is that dentistry will fail. If your work has been good, there are too many other factors that happen that will destroy it. So years ago, when I was in 1983, there was a friend of mine who wrote an article in the U of T magazine, because dentistry is a high-stress profession, and it's called How Good is Perfect. Because in dentistry, we're taught, as we are in school, we have the best instructors here, these two young guys, And they're teaching you to make the perfect preparation. That's what you're going to be examined on. But even the perfect preparation, the best restoration, is not going to give you something that's going to last. So what he did is he wrote an article that basically said, take a deep breath and don't rip your guts out. Now with this oral systemic link that Sarah's going to talk about, that's a whole new problem on why dentistry fails. So this is before the oral systemic link, and we didn't know about it. It's called How Good is Perfect. We are constantly being told that dentistry is a stressful profession. We are apparently more likely than the average person to succumb to divorce, nervous breakdown, premature death, and even more serious conditions. This is attributed in part to the fear and mistrust with which many patients approach their dental treatment. Other contributing factors are the precise nature of much of our technical procedures, the responsibility for safety and health, and fear of failure. More recently, economic and social factors have increased the tension with a decrease of patient flow, open bookings, less discretionary spending, and more demanding clientele. That was 1985. It's 10 times worse now. If all of this is true or even half true, we owe it to ourselves to do what we can to lessen the burden. Aside from pursuing practice management procedures that decrease anxiety and increase trust among staff, patients, and dentists, there is another cause over which we have almost no control that can be attenuated quite easily. There is nothing carved in rock that strives us to be forced to go for perfection. Nature is not perfect. Not all teeth have a perfect shape, color, form, or position. Why should reparative or replacement procedures be perfect? Why should any normal, rational human being be forced to denigrate himself or herself because of failure to achieve the ultimate impossibility every time? Sometimes good enough is good enough. Dental research, advertising, and promotion are constantly informing us of the newest breakthrough in durability and lifelike aesthetics. Amalgam restoration should last forever. Acid edge composites look as real as enamel, and perfection is within our grasp. Do cars last forever? Do the hi-fi and video industry promote eternal quality? Does every physician guarantee success after every operation? Even eyeglasses eventually sometimes require replacement. Well, amalgams break, margins fail, composites stain, and porcelain chips. For that matter, roots fracture, gingival tears, blood vessels rupture, and rubber dams leak. As a matter of fact, it's impossible to be perfect in spite of the great effort we sometimes have to accept a little less than we started off to attain. So what? Life goes on, and often the so-called poor result is as good as better than accepted standards, especially if honest effort and care are involved. Give it a good shot. Be kind to yourself. Your patients need you. So today, there's a lot more that we understand about failing dentistry, and Sarah's going to get into the things that, like we have people that she'll talk that go through chemotherapy, radiation. The drugs destroy everything in the mouth. We never knew what, we tell people come in more frequently on your re-care. There's other things that can be done, and she'll share a little bit of that. All right, so I'm going to fly through the rest. So bottom line is these are the barriers. So we have our ideal practice that we're trying to achieve. We've got our challenges that we've had for 25 years. And what are the barriers? So you want to drive quickly on the highway, and there's a tree that fell down, that's a barrier. Lack of effective practice management systems. Inadequate clinical skills not congruent with the highest standards and knowledge of the most current scientifically proven information, techniques, and principles. Not having a clear vision or goals, that's very important. Lack of a proper financial plan. Poor growth strategies and inadequate market knowledge. Lack of appropriate personal and people skills and training. There's something called the DISC profile, which I'm not sure if you're aware of, but there's different personality types. There are people who are quiet, there are people who are outgoing. So if you're an outgoing person and you have somebody who's a quiet, introverted person, you have to connect to them, you have to recognize their type, and connect to them on who they are, not on who you are. So to get this leadership, there are things you can do. a team that are not aligned with the dentist practice vision, which leads me to another story. See how I'm doing here. I'm going to try in 10, 15 minutes wrap it up. So we had, when we moved our practice, we had in Sheridan Mall 4 operatories, 1,100 square feet, 6 staff. We moved here, we've got 6,000 square feet, 18 staff, you know, the most gorgeous facility. Within 3 months, we were doing more production than in the old office. We were losing like $15,000 a month. Like, I mean, I couldn't believe it. So I decided to bring an expert in to help us revamp and get the new answers of what we needed. So we bring this person in, and they have certain ideas, everything ethical with integrity on what we needed to do. We had one team member that would live with me for 18 years who resisted everything. I'm not doing it this way. It's worked in the past. We're in Sheridan Mall. So I said, you know, and I never does. I said, I don't eat lunch with my staff because I don't want them to have to put up with me during lunch hour. And I don't think I've ever gone out for lunch with a staff person, except for Harriet, who deserves it. So I took her for lunch, and we started talking about the change. And she said, I don't know why you want me to change. I give 100% every day. So I quickly got back to her and I said, you know what? I know you do. I would rather have you give 70% of what we need you to give that fits the practice vision than 100% of what you think is important. She left a week later. How many of you have read this book? Who Moved My Cheese? This is a book, and it's a story about 4 little people that live in a, you know what a maze is with all the channels? They live in a maze. And they're right in a corner, and there's big mountains of cheese. And there's 2 little people, 2 little mice. It's a very easy read. You can read this like in an hour. So they get up every morning, and they just eat cheese until they're ready to bust. And every day is like being in a holiday. 2 of the little people say, you know what? What happens when our cheese goes down? One day we're going to wake up, there's going to be nothing. So they decide to risk going into the maze because they realize that's going to happen. So long story short, they leave the 2 little mice, and they are lost, and they're wandering for ages. At the end of the book, they finally get to the end of the maze, and the doors open up, and there's mountains of cheese. So they have cheese now forever, and the 2 little guys that stay have nothing. So the book is all about change and the risk of change. And most people, whether it's your spouse or friends or staff, don't change, not because they don't believe it's important. They don't think anything is going to affect them. It's a very good book. And we also got one, I gave it to some of my staff, it's actually Who Moved My Cheese for teens. So it's a good read, very, very easy. Do you want to throw that video on quickly? Video? I'm almost finished, and then you can listen to the really good speakers. So this is called I Can Do This. So as you're looking at this, and you're sitting, carving teeth, coming in at crazy hours, worrying about your licensing, you remember what happened with Rocky when he got to the top of the stairs, and that's what you have to feel. It's a good video. Grand Canyon is unbelievable. Have you ever seen it? It's like being an ant next to the CN Tower. process is about having the confidence to achieve at a high level. Those people are crazy. Why would somebody do that? So as you're sitting during your training period in this lovely facility with these magnificent teachers who are doing everything possible, be confident that you can do this. So just gonna a little bit more. We're almost finished. So we started talking about success at the beginning, and success is doing a lot of little things really, really well every day, day in and day out, whether it's stopping smoking, going on a better food plan, or learning dentistry. You do it day in and day out with consistency, you persevere, and you have to have determination. So it starts off, what brought you here is you had an inspiration to want to get your Canadian licenses. We have just hired a fabulous young lady to join our practice, and I met her first time on Monday, and just listening to what she has gone through, her perseverance to leave England, come here, risk everything under the sun, in the middle of that, do volunteer work and give back to the community. And the focus, I believe in karma, I believe in the universe, and I believe that if you do the right thing, there's something up there, we believe it's God or the universe, whatever you believe, it will reward us. So you have to be persistent. So you start off with inspiration, you get motivated to continue, you keep the progress going, and at the end of it, you get success. And success is something, it's like weight loss. It starts very slow. So these are all the percentages. I'll let you just fire those through. So obviously it goes from 0, and 0 might have been your first day here when you met Eisner and Firas, and they started showing you everything, and you didn't know what you were doing or what you were supposed to do. And gradually you keep persevering, and eventually you get to the 90th percentile, and the last one is you did it. And our goal here is to get you as ready as we can for the examination progress, both with clinical and interviews, and so you go in there, with the most confidence, because at the end of the day, the confidence is the people that are looking at you. They're looking at what are you going to be like as a professional, and in that half hour or an hour, you've got to pull it off. So, a couple more slides. So, whether it's gaining new patients, building your practice, trying to get referrals, one of the things I said to Abbas and Firas and Awais when they started this thing is there's many centers out there as there's many coffee shops. We could go to Starbucks, Coffee Time, Tim Hortons. Everybody makes coffee. They've all got great websites. So I never worried. When I started dentistry, I never worried if there would have been 25 dentists in my corner. I wouldn't have cared. I never worried about the competition. All I felt is, what do I need to do at the highest level that I'm capable of to achieve what I want, or what I deserve, and what my patients and practice deserve. CIDE, I believe and I know from the way this has been put together, is the same thing. So we can teach, we can say things, it doesn't matter what we did, but the thing is how you feel. And the goal at CIDE is to teach everything else, but give you the soft things that you can't always get, the confidence, the respect, just the determination that what you're being taught, you can take to the next level. All right, I am going to ask, hi, You. No, no, okay, you. You know, she's afraid I'm going to ask her, so you stand up. Okay, this is very easy. Quickly, what does that say? Quick.
Opportunity, vision.
Okay, who can read that quickly? Give me. Opportunity is nowhere. Everything in life is how you look at it. All right, so if you look at being one of 100 out of how many that are going to get in, you know, I mean, you got it. I mean, all those people on that video defied all the odds. You got to, it's the opportunity is now here. You got to make it happen. I have a feeling that is it. So the last slide that we have, we're just going to go back to that last one before that. So one of our goals is with this mentorship program is besides all the skills you're going to gain is giving you the things you know about the advisors and the interviews, the lawyers and the accountants and CE and all the other things that you're going to need. So when you have to go up to battle and get that associate position or do what you have to do, it'll be easier for you. You put a lot of pressure on me, but I needed like one more minute. I can see that's 48 years of my life, and I hope you enjoyed it. The talented people are now coming, the cream of the afternoon.
Questions? Comments?
Who's next? Okay.
I'll let you know. Thank you, Roger. Thank you. And I think he deserves one more round of applause. Extracting whatever he got from 48 years.